Welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast brought to you by Twisted Tea and My Bookie. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And I'm joined by my cousin Shane, who's sitting right here. And he goes by Big Orange Balls on Twitter. What's up, you old Tennessee homer?
Oh, baby, what's going on? My mentions are full of Gators and ball hate. I love it.
And, hey, it's a big week. Preseason's over. That's what I'm calling it, brother. Preseason. All those garbage non-conference games. We're in the real season.
We are.
Do we count the preseason or we count the real season? We count the real season.
Absolutely.
So I'm opening 1-2 here. Florida, Tennessee, LSU, Mississippi State, Georgia, South Carolina, and hell, Kansas State, Missouri. That feels like a conference game
Feels
in
like
itself.
it,
So
yeah.
I am fired up, brother. I'm ready to get into it. And we got a lot of games to talk here.
Yes.
How's that sound?
This sounds good, man. I'm pumped up. And like you said, it's week two's over,
Right.
It's like we've drug that one through the mud as much as we can. Moving forward, this is when it counts, It's like school. You could be a terrible student all the way to high school. It's those 4 years that really count. You know what I'm saying? Those 4 years is what gets you to college and shit like that. So it just kind of feels like that's what it was. We got grade school out of the way. It's now high school time. So let's have some football. And every Saturday moving forward, Mike, is going to matter. That's what I love about it. It just gets a little bit more tense, because in the back of your mind, you're like, even if you're a Bama fan, you're like, yeah, we lost this one, but we can still play them again, Or you could say the same thing about Florida. You could say the same thing about A&M. But moving forward, it's like now you can't afford to lose anymore. So It's going to be awesome.
So, just imagine if Florida wins this weekend. Oh, that's hard for you to even hear me say those words, but they'll be 2-1.
Uh-huh.
And I think even the most optimistic Florida fan in the summer would have said, after 3, I'd take 2-1.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
And undefeated in conference play?
Buddy, the Gators, they're all right. You know what I'm saying? They were the laughing stock at the season opener and stuff like that. But since then, everyone else has stumbled out of the block. So no more fingers are being pointed. So the Gators are fine, and they're anticipating a win. You can definitely tell online, man. I've had to mute a couple of you Gator fans.
All right, Shane, and then I apologize to the audience. I screwed up once again, of course. But on the Sunday show, we played a couple Missouri reaction clips. People called the call-in line. Remember, that call-in line, 615-965-5152. And we're hoping for more of you SEC fans. But we want you guys to be burning up this call-in lines, especially right after a game. 615-965-5152. And we played a couple Missouri from the last one. We had a really good Tennessee one and a good Florida one. I forgot to play them. Mm-hmm. Let's go with the Tennessee one because it is Tennessee week. This was right after the Austin Peay. And leave your name if you want. You don't have to. Some of these people are going to vent. Maybe they don't want their name attached to it. I get it. But it would be kind of fun if you put your name to it. But let's kick it over to this first one. It's a Tennessee fan who was red hot after that Austin Peay game.
But I just want to say about these Tennessee fans, I'm a diehard Vols to the day I die. But I get on Twitter mid-game, and I am absolutely astonished by the stupidity, but also arrogance at the same damn time. You got half the folks saying the receivers got to catch those balls. You got half the people saying Milton can't make a good pass. It touched his hands. He should have caught it. Here's my thing. You're playing Austin freaking Peay. I mean, this is a glorified high school team. No offense to them. They made it further than I ever did. But good God. Joe Milton, 15-yard pass behind him, above him, below him, beside him. Anything but the good Lord's chest. Hit him in the chest! Hit him in the damn chest! I don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, Joe Milton's got this big arm. It don't make a shit. You can throw it 90 yards if you can't hit him in the damn chest. I'm worried about Florida. Just worried about it sick. Hope we go down there and mud stomp them Gators into a pit. But shit, it's going to be hard to win when you can't hit them in the chest.
All right, buddy. So, hey,
hit him in the damn chest, Mike. Come on, man.
I could tell y'all from personal experience. Cousin Shane, you were not that red hot, but
I was upset.
You were pretty hot after that one.
I was upset, and I have a tendency to get offline because I'm afraid I'll say something stupid. Thank God Elon put the old edit button on there so I could edit a few after the fact. But brother, I love this, and this is why we like the hotline, because ain't no better coach than us. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no better athletic director than us. So if we need to fire somebody, we need to know. So be sure to call that hotline. I think it's great. Sometimes you don't have a buddy. Well, you got two right here. You got two cousins right here that you can vent to. So call the hotline. Tell us how you feel, and if it's good enough, we'll include it online.
Yep. Again, that number 615-965-5152. And then we had another one real short, Shane. A Florida fan down on Billy Napier, but he's still liking his odds this week.
Man, when people said Billy Napier sucked, I didn't believe him. But now we all know he's still going to beat the fuck out of Tennessee, Cousin Shane.
Oh, I love that part.
Oh,
you know
I love it, man. There's been chirping all over, and it's not just Tennessee and Florida. South Carolina, Georgia going around at it. You're starting to see some of these other programs. Texas A&M under attack big time by the Longhorns, even though they didn't even play. You know what I'm saying? So this is what we love. This is why we cherish the SEC football, because it's the passion fan base, and it just means more, man.
Yeah, well, and speaking of that, Shane, obviously this Saturday means the world to Tennessee and Florida.
Yeah.
In this rivalry game, it's oftentimes dictates who has a good season, who has an underperforming season. Florida, nice bounce back. Tennessee coming off a sluggish performance. Which coach do you think this game means more to, Josh Heupel or Billy Napier? And I'm specifically talking not the overall rivalry or anything like that, but this season and what it could mean for the rest of the year.
Well, I think that's a great question, Mike. And the pressure is, I think, more on Josh Heupel, because everyone in this state is expecting a win.
Yeah.
They feel like this is always going to be a 10-win ball club moving forward, and losing to the Florida Gators would be just, especially a down Florida Gators. Say what you want. I know they're building, and Billy's doing a hell of a job. It's a slow build, but they're getting there. Mm-hmm. But again, those expectations. There are some Gator fans out there that say, "Hey, look, and look at the last 20 years. How many times we've been? Yeah, we're going to win." But they've also got that little, Josh Heupel. I mean, we got to see a little bit of this offense, and so I think the pressure is more on Josh than it is Billy here.
Great opportunity. You come to Tennessee because you want to play in these types of games, these types of environments. Sitting on prime time Saturday night. Great challenge in front of us. Really good football team. The big, strong, athletic on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Skill players on both sides are really good. Great speed, and will be a huge test for us.
You're going to have some games like that. Was that a good time for that?
Can be, absolutely. As much as anything, the competitive edge that you have to be on the right side of it is extremely important. And the difference between success and failure in this game is really small. So it wasn't all 11 all at one time. We can be better, need to be better. These guys care. They got a great care factor about them. So we'll have a great week of practice.
And do you feel at all, Shane, that, we try to be optimistic.
Yeah.
Tennessee has not quite lived up to the hype. Well, I mean, I don't even know if that's fair, but the point being, Shane, the plays are there to be made.
Yeah.
They're just not making them. It's a drop. It's a pass too high. It's a pass a little behind. It's maybe a penalty that shouldn't have been called. If they could clean these things up, and these are easy things.
Just hit him in the damn chest,
Yeah.
Mike,
It's not like we need an overhaul of talent.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're going to be, Hendon Hooker 2.0, but it feels like we're 3 or 4 plays away in each game to adding 21 points on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And that gives me confidence as a Tennessee fan that if we just clean that up, we can reach this high-flying offense we're used to seeing. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we took Hendon Hooker for, he was more than just a good decision maker. He was a I mean, he could throw the ball perfect downfield, 99 if you're talking about stretching the field. And we know Joe's got an arm on him, but he's failed to hit those big balls, and the big thing from a Volunteer fan is if you're watching this is our bread and butter, man. This is what we were about. We've kind of gotten used to it, these big plays. And then all of a sudden, people start sneaking up on you. They start getting a little bit close to that box, and it gets a little tougher for those running backs to run. It gets a little tougher for Joe because they're putting pressure on him, It all stems back to not being able to stretch this field. So you are correct. It's not just Joe Milton. Buddy, I'm still in camp. All right, look here. I still got my Joe cup right here. I'm there.
Yeah,
but at least got a little bit shorter last week, I think, and he's going to have to take over games like the Florida Gators. He's going to if we're going to beat programs like Florida and Georgia and Alabama, he's got to figure it out. And part of me is like, is this the same 21 Joe or is this the 23 Joe? So just got to see it. And the receivers have got to help him. If it's in the area, they cannot afford to have any more drops moving forward.
Yeah, and the explosive passing game has been missing from the offense, so that's critical. Everyone's looking at that. They're not hitting those deep shots like they did last season, and that's been evident. But one thing I want to see, and I think we're going to have to see it, not only in this game, but the rest of the way in the SEC schedule, in these big-time matchups, I think Joe Milton is going to have to run the ball.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to use him. I mean, he's a damn giant there.
Absolutely.
They've got to use him as a battering ram. I don't want to, saying someone Tim Tebow, that's wild.
Yeah.
There's only one Tim Tebow. But in role like that, 2 or 3 times a game, 5 times a game, near the goal line, 3rd and short, 4th and short. I mean, if he can't pick that up, that's a problem.
Then what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Well, that's the beauty of this offense. You can seriously spread them. You can go sideline to sideline. You can have 5 guys out there, maybe have 4 or 5 in the box, and give Joe a designated run. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of that. Usually you don't see that if you're not confident in your backup. And, there was rumors floating around that Nico was a little banged up last week, so maybe that's why we didn't see so many designated runs. But then again, it is Austin Peay, so you don't want to put your quarterback out there if he doesn't need to be. But, I don't think we see any of that this week. The offense opens up. There's some plays they haven't called yet, okay? And I'm not saying they've been running vanilla or anything like that, but there's some routes, there's some play calls that we've not seen on film this year that we're going to see during this Florida Gator game.
Yeah. And, one key difference, Shane, in this matchup, the talent is fairly similar. I don't think Tennessee's drastically more talented than Florida, and I certainly don't think Florida's drastically more talented than Tennessee. But one key where Tennessee has a big advantage is, remember we talked about it leading up to like week 1, it was like 17, 18 seniors in the 2 deep. Florida, not exclusively, but they're a lot more freshmen and sophomores.
Yeah.
So Tennessee has a big-time edge in experienced players that have seen the battles in the SEC. And they had a players-only meeting, Shane, and I think this is evident of what exactly I'm talking about. We're sitting here. It's not been pretty, but Tennessee's 2-0, and they're holding players-only meetings. In past, at Tennessee, you have player meetings when we're 0-2 and losing to Georgia State and garbage teams like this. They're upset the way they're winning, which I think is a great sign for Tennessee. Let's kick it over to Omar Thomas, a defensive lineman, one of these veterans I'm talking about, who referenced that players-only meeting here on this week on Tuesday.
Some talk that there was like a players-only meeting or something like that on Sunday. First off, was there? And if so, what was said? What was the need for it? How did that go?
Yes, it was said, and we did have one. And what we talked about in there, we just talked about how we just got to continue to approach the week. We can't change our preparation. We know it's a big game, first SEC game of the year. It's a rivalry game. We just didn't need to change what we do. We approach the same day like we do any other day, and just come in, have fun, ready to work. And that was really the main thing, just continuing to grow together and just you have that players meeting. It was a great meeting for us, honestly, just because it allowed everybody to see that we all still had the same page, flush the game that happened, and just let's continue to go work this week.
All right, Shay, so what's that say to you? Because, mixed reaction. I'm seeing Florida fans are saying, I never heard of a good team having a players-only meeting. But then I see Tennessee fans like, our boys got it. They got it. They know
Yeah.
what they need to do. Where do you lean on there?
Well, again, expectations are a little bit higher on this program this year than it was last. And I think if you were to poll the team, they all feel like these first two games should have been a lot easier than they were. And they weren't. And again, it was stupid, it was just mistakes that an individual make, whether it be blocking or whether it be catching, whether it be throwing. And again, this isn't coaching problems. This is player problems. So I like this. I think this was a good call because this game, you can't afford to have those mistakes or they're going to beat you. I mean, I'm a diehard Vol fan. Everybody knows that. But this program, this Florida Gator program, scares me coming off of last week because – and it's something Billy's going to hit on here in a minute. The weakness of us is going 0 for 3, going 3 and out. You do that, you give the ball to the Florida Gators that have now discovered their rushing attack. That's scary because they can milk this clock. The worst thing that can happen for the Florida Gators is to get down multiple scores. I think that's what this game's going to come down to. Tennessee if they can get a couple scores on them early, they win. If they don't, and they keep Florida hanging around, they're going to lose.
Yeah, so you referenced Billy Napier. Let's cut it to him. Florida, #1 in the SEC in time of possession. That's Billy Ball right there.
That's it.
They chew up that clock, limit possessions, rest the defense. May not be exciting, but nobody cares if you get the win.
That's right.
And that is something that they're going to be keying in on this week more than any other opponent they play because they – there's Billy Ball right there.
He hears it.
Well, they probably won't hear the lightning. But let's kick it over to Billy Napier talking limiting the possessions and how critical that'll be in this football game.
Second in the nation in fewest snaps your defense has been on the field this year. You got 9 more minutes a game possession time. Talk about the correlation between keeping your offense on the field and keeping your defense off.
Yeah, I think there's a commitment there to play complementary football. Ultimately, we've got off the field, on defense. I mean, we've been much improved on third down. And look, I think as the season unfolds and we get into the thick of the schedule, some of these statistical things will settle in. But, I mean, there's no doubt we've been better in that area. Time of possession's been a factor. Ultimately, we probably need to create a few more explosives, truth be known. And, there's so many things that contribute to those stats early in the year. I think it can be a little bit of a misnomer. But, there's no doubt I'm confident that we're much improved on defense. We talked about it in the preseason. And ultimately, I think we're going to continue to get better, too, because there's a lot of young players out there playing.
To keep your offense on the field, though, against a team like Tennessee that likes to run 75, 80 plays a game?
Yeah, the play count number can roll up. I think it's right in the high 70s, I think, relative to both sides of the ball on average. They're going to play in the high 70s. We're going to play in the high 70s. So the play count's going to improve. And depth can be a key component, especially late. But I think the game's about first down, and then you got to get off the field on third down. So ball gets into the red area, you got to force them to kick field goals. Last year's game was indicative of that if you dig into it.
All right, Chase, well, let me ask you this, because I've said this before. People just think I'm a hater. No, I can't believe people would say something like that. Does Billy Napier survive if he doesn't win this football game? And I don't mean they're going to fire him on Sunday or anything like that, but the way I'm looking at it, Shane, you're getting a struggling Tennessee. I think that's fair to say. When you got behemoths on the schedule like Georgia and Florida State and potentially LSU's on the road, you got some hella matchups here coming up. This feels like a must-win after how embarrassing Utah was.
Maybe a must-win for that fan base. Must-win for that admin. Definitely a must-win for Billy. But when the dust settles, it is a top 10 team. remove Tennessee's name off of it altogether. Losing to a top 10 is a little bit different than losing to a program that, because they got a tough schedule. They still got South Carolina, they got Mizzou, they're going to be all over the place. But there's going to be several opponents that they face that aren't a top 25. Losing to those, I think that is going to get his seat hot. Losing to a top 10, no. But I say all that to say this: if they lose by big, you know what I'm saying, 30, 40 points, something like that, then all that's out the window, because it is a rivalry at the end of the day, a rivalry that the Florida Gators are used to winning.
And I just think that even if it's a 1-point win, I was going to say half a point, but you can't do half a point. But a 1-point win, I don't care how ugly it is. I think that the fans they rally behind that and say, Tennessee, you are who we thought you were. And that's how Florida climbs up that SEC ladder that we're always talking about. And next in their range will be Kentucky. Yeah. They got to beat Kentucky. Yeah. And they can beat Kentucky, but
hell, as good as Tennessee's schedule was last year, I mean, they almost beat us there in Knoxville. Right. So
yeah. And last thing, I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but Saturday night in the Swamp.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of good teams have lost in that environment. So Tennessee's going to have to play a really good game. They're going to have to play their best game of the year just to get a 1-point win, I think.
Yeah. Well, and the fans. Fans got to be there. The Swamp's only as good as the people that are in. I watched, again, it was McNeese State, and the place was not sold out. I mean, they may have said it was, but clearly there were some empty seats. You can't have that against Tennessee balls. Everybody's got to be there, drunk, loud, angry, be a place. Well, growing up, man, I was always told never to wear Tennessee into that stadium. A jersey, or anything like that. Always wear a neutral colors or something over, cheer in your section, and then put something on and then go back out. Or you're going to get spit on. You're going to get yelled at. Be that place again. Be tenacious. Make the Swamp one of the best. When they bring out these. Because we did them too. Those off-season lists, and they're talking about the top 10 worst place to play on the road. You know who's not being mentioned as much as they used to be? Is the Swamp. So get back to that.
All right. How about this
next week? Not this week. Next week.
How about this showdown, Shane? LSU on the road, Mississippi State.
Yeah.
First conference game for both of those. Early kickoff. I've seen some LSU fans happy about that. See some Mississippi State fans mad about that. I don't know if that favors one over the other, but LSU's got a lot to prove, Ben, after getting embarrassed week 1. And if they're losing to Mississippi State, I think it's time to just sell all my stock in LSU. They're favorites on the road. Mississippi State, meanwhile, survived against Arizona, ugly fashion, but a win's a win, and Zach Arnett's going to take that. But thoughts on this matchup as LSU travels to Mississippi State?
Well, I think this is going to be a sneaky good game, and because it's strength on strength. This defense really came alive last week for Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of ask you, because I'm always curious, like, would you want a game like Grambling where nothing goes wrong, everything goes right, we go out here, we steamroll them, we get some confidence, maybe a little swagger, but does that dip production during the week when you come off a game like Mississippi State that fought for the life in overtime, and quickly went to that tape and said, hey, if we did this, this, and this, we never would have went to overtime. We would have put this game away. Do you think it's more of a benefit coming off one of those lackadaisical games like Grambling or a close game like Arizona?
Yeah, because they're both at different points in their program for sure.
And the only reason I say that is because I feel like there was a little bit of that cockiness coming into the Florida State game.
Right.
And I'm not saying they're going to have that with Mississippi State, but you secretly ask any player in that locker room if they're going to lose this week. Oh, hell no. There's no way LSU loses. You ask the fans, no way. But sometimes if you come in with that attitude, you're punched in the mouth and you're 2-3 quarters in and you're fighting for your life. So I'm wondering, even the fact this game's pushed to noon, media doesn't care, blah, blah, blah. You can paint it whatever. I think it's more of a benefit for Mississippi State because they'll be dialed in.
Right.
But I don't know if that hurts LSU coming off a cupcake like Grambling.
Well, I think this is a unique situation where it may help both.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a cheap way to answer that. But LSU got exposed in the opener. So they found out quickly we got issues here, here, and here. And an opponent like Grambling, you make adjustments and you figure that out. And then obviously it worked against Grambling. So that doesn't mean it's going to work in the SEC. But now you already have another week of film knowing how those adjustments worked against Grambling. Now we translate that to an SEC. Like, had they jumped into Mississippi State right after Florida State, I don't know. I don't know if they would have gotten that confidence. I don't know if the adjustments would have worked as well.
Yeah.
I think it helps LSU. Now, to your point, as Zach Arnett is trying to build his program, yeah, winning at home, winning ugly, winning a game, I think a lot of other teams would have lost in that situation, but a win's a win. They come out 2-0. They played, I don't want to say awful because the defense was really good.
Yeah.
But the offense was hit or miss. I think getting a win in that fashion, knowing that we don't always have to play our A game and we're still winning.
Yeah.
Again, if we can clean those issues up, we can really stun the world and beat LSU.
And be proud of your guys for coming through with the win. How much do you think some of the young players can learn from being in a game like that and playing through some of the lows to find a way to win as well?
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, if you're a guy who's a freshman out there, or maybe it's your first time really getting significant action, and you have to play for a full 60 minutes and then some more, right, because of overtime, right, you grow from that, and you learn from the highs and the lows. And so, we should be a more mature, experienced football team because of that game, which is good for us. It's going to be good for us in the long run.
And interestingly, Shane, Will Rogers, I mean, we're used to him throwing it all over the yard.
Yeah.
I keep throwing this stat out because this blows my mind. Mississippi State this season, I know it's early, but 119th in the country in pass attempts. 119th. You have any idea where they were the last 3 years?
Like 3.
Number 1.
Number 1.
Every single year. Now, again, it's just 2 games, but
Yeah.
that's a drastic difference. And they need to get back. I think they're trying to establish their identity clearly as a tough-nosed running team, shorten the game, defense. But I don't think that's going to work against LSU because LSU's weakness is a secondary.
Yeah.
And Florida State threw all over them. Grambling had some success throwing on them. Surely to God, Will Rogers can have success throwing the ball. But for some reason, maybe kind of like you're saying with Tennessee, maybe they're holding stuff back, but they nearly lost to Arizona. So I don't think, imagine holding shit back and losing a game.
That playbook was open, man.
Right. So I don't know what is the issue, but we've got to let it, we don't have to throw it 60 times in the game.
Yeah.
We got to be a lot more balanced, and we got to make plays in the passing game if we're going to have any shot of upsetting
Mississippi
LSU.
State can't play scared.
Right.
And I feel like we've been playing a little scared. Like, let's don't do this because it could result in an interception. Let's don't do this because it could result in a turnover. You come, if you're coached at that angle, your players are going to play like that. So I think we need to open it up a little bit, take some chances, because you're, like you said, you're going to have to win games like this one.
Coach, kind of piggybacking on what Mike asked, did you think in fall camp that it would be this challenging back there in the secondary this early in the season?
Yes. Yeah, we knew that we were playing new players back there, and the challenges were going to be in developing players with very little experience, but with talent. But talent is only one part of the equation. It's developing, the consistency and doing the little things that require playing at a high level, tackling, leveraging the football, being in the right leverage, whether it's inside leverage or outside leverage, raking through the basket, when the ball's in the air and getting it out, and which we've done, much better in week 2. So I think all of those things were going to be work in progress for us. We competed well for the ball in the air. I think what we'd like to see better is our technique to improve, the fundamentals, and probably the tackling.
Ryan, you said post-game that Harold Perkins has a new position. What are y'all going to start asking him to do that's maybe different from the first game, and what was the impetus for that change?
Well, we wanted to free him up a little bit. He's got a lot of responsibilities playing inside, and we just needed to let him go and let him play fast. We felt like, with all the things that we had asked him to do, we probably slowed him down a little bit. And one of the things we have to do as coaches is know where your players are relative to, playing fast. And I think we saw in the very first play with the physicality he showed when the ball got out on the perimeter. That's not something that you want to do, is throw the ball out on the perimeter with Harold. So I think we made the right decision there, and now we'll refine what we do with him. Like, we can move him around, we can move him inside and outside, and do some things that can keep him in a position to impact the game. And that's what we're trying to do.
And how much, because I don't think there's any pressure on Zach Arnett necessarily to win this one. I think he just gains a ton of fans that he's already got. But, they'll have more confidence in him if they beat him. But I think Brian Kelly, is all the pressure in the world on him. If he loses this game, not trying to be disrespectful to Mississippi State, but it's 2 games out of 3 that you're already down, when people like me saying you're going to win the West, you can win the national championship. That's, he's going to be mocked, not just by LSU fans, but by the country.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So, I don't know. Shane. This is one game I really got my eye on this weekend.
It's going to be fun, man. And it's early, so we're gonna be talking about it all Saturday. It's one of those, like, You play at 9 o'clock, you wrap up at 11, and it's like, well, we'll talk about it, but there's all these other games.
Yeah.
But you do one at noon, it's like, all game, we're talking about these others, but did you see that Mississippi State LSU matchup?
What the hell's wrong with LSU? That's going to be a national storyline.
Brian Kelly, he was a bust. So, it's going to be a good game regardless. But, again, I think this one is simply going to boil down to who makes, and that's cliche, but who makes the least amount of mistakes here? If LSU truly cleaned it up from week 1, they'll be fine. They'll steamroll in Mississippi State. But if Mississippi State opens it up, plays a little less scared, who knows, man? I don't think we've seen the teeth of this offense yet.
Right. All right, how about this one, Shane? Big matchup here, SEC on CBS game of the week. South Carolina at Georgia. We got a good one here, Shane, because we've already got some. So this is another one where these fans hate each other.
Yeah, they do.
There's no respect. I don't care how many national championships Georgia won. They're a bunch of cheaters, bunch of this and that. In South Carolina, lowly South Carolina. And remember, Kirby, he was on his way to South Carolina. They were hiring him.
Yep.
And Georgia found out. They fired Rick like that. We got to bring him home.
Right.
We don't want to play against him. So,
and these coaches were in the same neighborhood, sharing casseroles and shit. We're going to get a couple of those stories too. But deep down inside, they both want to win this one for sure.
Yeah, and I love this, Shane, because there's a lot of talk already about the crowd noise. Beamer hit on it, but more importantly, apparently at media days, we clip everything. This is why people don't say stuff at media days now, because these people clip it up months later and say, "Did you hear what they said at media days 3 months ago?" and all this, and then to get Kirby and them riled up. So here's Kirby's response. Here's Shane Beamer on the Georgia crowd.
Overall, what has your opinion been on the attendance and at least the crowd noise they were developing through these first 2 games? And I know SEC Media Days, Tonka Hemingway was asked about some of the toughest stadiums he played in, and Georgia wasn't on that list. How important or how just good to see Samford being one of the toughest places to play around not only the SEC but the NCAA?
Yeah, I'm expecting it to be that. People want to question whether our fans are elite. We'll find out Saturday, right? Sounds like Tonka called them out. So maybe we need to use Tonka for motivation and let him be the one that spurns our group to come out there at 3:30 and be really loud and fired up. So I certainly hope our fan base will be. They've answered the bell every single time. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Shane, you mentioned, the number one ranking, Georgia. You've got a few guys that have been in this atmosphere before. Do you find yourself having to tell anybody on the team about, like, you got to be prepared for this atmosphere? Or do they pretty much already know what they're going to be walking into?
I would hope they know. A lot of these guys all on our team were highly recruited guys and maybe went to a game as a recruit at Georgia, or they came here, or they went to other SEC games. So it's like I told them this morning, this will be a rocking environment. When we go to Knoxville in a few weeks, it'll be a rocking environment. When we go to A&M, and where else do we go? Missouri this year. It's the SEC. And if you don't want to play in front of 90, 100,000 seat fans, you should have gone and played in another conference. We don't go and play in front of stadiums where there's 20, 30,000 people in the stands for a conference game. This is the SEC. So our guys should embrace that. We know it'll be a big challenge. It was extremely difficult to communicate over there a couple years ago. We know how loud it'll be, but I want our guys to embrace it as well. We went to Clemson last year, and that was a hostile environment, and we played with poise and get off to a great start, but played with poise, and it'll be the first time for a lot of these guys in an atmosphere like this. So it'll be a challenge as well. You try and educate them, but again, with us, we need to worry about what we can control, and that's going to play well.
Oh, buddy. All right. So again, it's going to be rowdy down there. You know what?
I love it. And in the clip, I don't know if you played his clip, but he just mentioned two of the loudest stadiums. It wasn't like he said Georgia sucks or they're not loud. He just didn't mention them. And,
right.
So, the proper answer, I guess, is to give the name of 13 other teams, loud environments. But, hey, whatever it takes, Kirby is always going to find motivation. Kudos to the media team to help them out this week. But, hey, buddy, I've been there, all right? Don't start calling Beck, I'm just saying. Take word for the wise here. You may just want it, but Georgia fans will be there. It'll be loud, as always, but I kind of like this because, again, the ribbon's already started.
And all the hype, Shane, for Spencer Rattler has been warranted. He's been incredible. But clearly, this is going to be his toughest test to date.
Yeah.
Probably his toughest test of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Playing in Athens against these two-time national champions here. What's your confidence level that Spencer Rattler can have another great game with these dogs coming after them? And they made some adjustments in the Furman game on the offensive line, but that means nothing. We'll learn a lot more about him here against Georgia. But what's your confidence level that Spencer can continue his hot hand? And I'm not asking you to predict an upset or anything, but just, they got no shot if Spencer doesn't have a fantastic day.
Yeah. This obviously the toughest test, but there was a lot of pressure in that North Carolina game too. Game day's there, everybody's watching.
Yeah,
and I don't feel like he didn't meet expectations in that one. So I'm not saying 3:30 Georgia's going to be any different. Okay, the environment's going to be more violent, but he's seen it. He's been there. He's been in some loud places and has performed under pressure. So, no, Spencer's dialed in. He is, in my mind, one of the top 2-3 quarterbacks right now in this league, the way he's playing. I fully expect him to have a great game against Georgia, but it's going to come down. It has nothing to do with him. I think it's the offensive line. If they don't give him time, then it doesn't matter. It's a moot point. So I think it's going to ultimately boil down to that offensive line, just giving him the opportunity to win this game.
Yeah, and we've even been asked about it, Shane. Like his NFL stock and how he's helping it and everything. I have to imagine that he is putting more into this game than any other.
Yeah.
Because this is the one the scouts are going to be looking at.
Absolutely. Against
Georgia, against his defense that's dominated everybody. And that doesn't mean he has to come out here and throw for 5 touchdowns, but just if he can make the big-time throws, because that's what they're looking for. He's got the big arm. Can he make these throws in the NFL? This is as close as he's going to see to an NFL defense. This is a big week for him.
It's basically the Eagles,
Yeah, and he's got sounds like Juice Wells. We keep hearing.
Yeah.
They keep saying he'll be back. Hopefully, this is the week.
Is Juice the best receiver on that team right now, Mike?
Xavier
I'm
Leggett,
just
SEC
saying.
leader in receiving yards. So, I mean,
Anybody tucking their shirt like that, extremely confident. You know what I'm saying?
now that they got two elite receivers here,
Maybe that should be my bet this week. If South Carolina pulls this off, I come in with the Leggett shirt.
Yeah. But, I mean, hey, this is what Steven has said. This is what you need to beat Georgia. Elite quarterback. Skill players. And you just got to beat them in man-to-man coverage down the field.
Kirby, what have you seen from Spencer Rattler, and what do you expect from him the second time you guys are facing him?
Well, he's got an elite arm talent, I can tell you that. The throws he's made, he can make the touch throws, deep, vertical, back shoulder throws. He's thrown a couple field outs. He had a throw against Clemson last year on 3rd and 10. It was a rope. So he's very elusive, very accurate with the ball, hard to finish on. There's a lot of people that miss tackles on him when they have an opportunity to try to get him down. So tremendous player, sees the whole field, and some of his best plays come off schedule, meaning that somebody misses somebody or he scrambles and he hits you on the shot. He's very dangerous.
Yeah, Shane, how has Leggett turned himself into a more reliable, consistent performer out there?
I think just work. I know it's easy to say, but the guy works his tail off, and he's just been very driven and passionate about getting better. He like the catch he made in the bowl game against Notre Dame for the touchdown. I mean, yes, that was a wow, freakish play, but it wasn't a surprise to me because I know Xavier's athleticism and strength and speed and all that. And I can remember last August of 2022, there was some NFL teams out there, scouts watching practice, and he made some catches. And I remember one pulling me aside saying, "Who the heck is that?" Just because of his size and speed and physicality, he jumps out. And we had some pretty good receivers that he was competing with last year as well, with guys like Josh Vann and Jalen that are gone.
South Carolina's got the pieces to do that. It's obviously much more complicated than that. Otherwise, Georgia would be beatable. But I don't know. They've got some tools to work with here. I really do, to make this game more interesting than most people are just looking at this and immediately going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this could be, an interesting game here.
I think it could be too. And again, it's about the improvements. Everybody has their minds made up on South Carolina now after watching the UNC matchup. I mean, that's we told you that would be the problem week one and why you needed to come out, because no one else other than South Carolina fans have been watching them. And I saw the progress week two. Again, it's Furman, whatever. But there was still some things in that game that they cleaned up immediately. So this is not going to be the same South Carolina program. Georgia, again, scoreboard, has looked great the last couple of weeks, but there's been some mistakes along the way, but I feel like they're getting better. So, but I feel like there's more question marks on the Georgia team this year than there have been in the past coming into this one. Last year I remember them going to South Carolina. I was like, there's no way this is going to be a ball game. And I'm not saying that it's going to be this time, but there is a little bit of you saying, well, if the stars align, there may be an opportunity here. So,
and one final thing, I just thought this was great, Shane. Tyler Simmons was on sides. That's one of the Georgia's fans' favorite sayings, and he was. But Shane Beamer remembers that play. He was a special teams coach down there in Athens.
Right.
I think he's trying to butter up them dogs this week going into this matchup. You know what?
Yeah. Taking me down a nightmare. It was the right thing. If you go to, if you ask anybody in Athens what Tyler Simmons was onside means, they know. Because in the national championship game, we had Alabama punted. Kirby had come up with a plan that, we're going to show this look when Alabama punts. We're confident that they will do this. And then when they do this, we're going to do that. And Alabama's protection scheme, we had we were going to get a free rusher, we felt like, and we did. Came completely clean, blocked a punt, just like we had designed it to do. And unfortunately, the officiating crew, not an SEC crew, but the officiating crew absolutely blew the call. And I don't want to say cost us a national championship, but that was a significant play in the game that potentially cost us a national championship game that night, because that was the same game that Tua threw the pass on 2nd and 26 and overtime, and that block punt happens early in the second half, and there probably isn't an overtime. So I've gotten past it, as you can tell. Yeah, it doesn't bother me anymore. But that was one. That was Kirby. You know, we had a whole month to work on it, and he was exactly
Give
right.
Kirby any more ammo, you know.
Yeah, I saw someone on Twitter, Shane, they were like, don't make me like Shane Beamer this week. Come on now, Georgia fan. So, but that's all that was. I thought that was great. All right, Shane, let's take a break from the show to let the audience know we're brought to you by MyBookie. Head on over to mybookie.ag today and put in that promo code THATSEC. That's THATSEC. And they're willing to match your initial deposit 50% all the way up to $1,000. $1,500 in your account today, Shane, with using that promo code, THATSEC. All you got to do is follow the link in the show notes, fade our picks. You ain't got to worry about the bills the rest of the year. You know what? So head on over to mybookie.ag. This is the #1 way to help the show grow, help the show stay independent. Head on over to mybookie.ag and put in that promo code, THATSEC.
I'm getting a lot of Gamecocks out there saying, please put it on them Bulldogs.
And we're also brought to you by Game Time Sidekicks. Check out Shane's Game Time Sidekicks there. They're partners with NIL, with all the SEC teams. They got every SEC team covered at Game Time Sidekicks. We cannot recommend this product more. Head on over to GameTimeSidekicks.com. Put in that promo code at checkout, SEC. Very, very simple. There's also a link in the show notes to the Game Time Sidekicks website where you can put in that promo code SEC to get 20% off your entire order. We guarantee you will be happy with your Game Time Sidekicks product. It's the finest tumbler, stainless steel cup you'll ever buy. You know what?
I swear, man, if like apocalypse happens and they start digging through the ruins, they're going to find Game Time cups and bowls. These things are built like I mean, I can't explain it, but I was looking at my food bowl. I'm like, I got my little dog, one of the bowls, and I was like 3 generations is going to be able to eat out of this bowl, and I don't want to think like that, but that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. So don't forget that promo code SEC for 20% off your entire order. How about Alabama, Shane? Nick Saban going. We're not going to break down the South Florida game. They're going to kill them. But we're lacking an offensive identity, and I've talked about it. I don't think Milroe is necessarily the problem. I think it's the offensive line.
You don't think he's the problem? No,
because I don't think they got anyone better. And that's the sad state of Alabama's decaying dynasty.
Do you say so? And I don't mean to cut you off, but do we see more quarterbacks in this game, you think?
Yeah, because they'll blow their doors off.
Right.
But they're also not putting him in a position to be successful.
Yeah.
They're having him take the snap, look downfield, play this pro style. There's no design quarterback runs. There's no read option. I mean, you adjust to the players you got.
Yeah.
You don't sit here and say, I'm Tommy Reese, I run pro style, and we're going to take his dual threat guy and make him run an NFL style system that doesn't suit his skills.
Right.
You have to adjust to the talent you got. And I think they've done a really poor job of doing that. And even Nick Saban says it here. We do not have an offensive identity. And I can't remember the last time that's been the case at Alabama.
Could you imagine a couple of options coming? I mean, I don't want to go full Georgia Tech here, but I do think you're right. I think they're missing a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see as the identity of this offense?
I don't know that in this past game we had much of identity. I think we started out early in the game being able to run the ball effectively, and we did not mix up the play-action pass and to complement the run game, and eventually, it got harder and harder to run the ball. We did make some explosive plays on offense, but it's too hit or miss. You got to have consistency to be able to sustain drives, and that's the one thing that we didn't do. We made explosive plays, but we weren't consistent enough in terms of developing identity, to use your term, But the identity that we'd like to have is to be physical enough to be able to run the ball consistently, effectively, but also be able to have a good play action game to go with it, be able to drop back when we need to, and be efficient and effective in all those areas. And I can't say that we were in this game other than making some explosive plays. We didn't do that well enough.
Yeah, Coach, on Saturday night you said the Texas game was a midterm, not the final. With a long season still to go, how do you think the team's mindset is right now?
Well, I haven't talked to the team since after the game. I'll see them today, when we watch the film. But I would be shocked if this team does not respond in a really positive way to trying to get better, to try to do the things they need to do to get fixed. But we have to have better execution. We got to do simple things better, whether it's pass protection, blocking, controlling the line of scrimmage, not giving up big plays on defense, whatever. Those are the things that are going to change. This is not just about attitude of players. They all wanted to win more than any fan, more than anybody in this room, and they put all the work and preparation into it. And I feel badly for them that we weren't able to do whatever we need to do as coaches to try to help them have a better chance to be successful in the game. And we're all responsible for it, and we're all going to try to work hard to get better. So I would be shocked if these guys don't come in here today with the attitude that we're going to go out there and try to improve and get better, and the future is now. I mean, we got to do it now. That's the main thing.
All right, Shane, so no identity. The future is now. Does that mean there is no future? If the future's now? Come on. I had to play that one.
I knew it. Saban's out. This is it, man. He doesn't have time to work on this, No, I think Coach said exactly what he's supposed to say. But yeah, this is a program that we expected more. We didn't. You and I didn't expect them to lose to Texas, but they did.
Yeah.
But how do they bounce back? I think that's the key, is because we never saw the bounce back last year. After the tough Tennessee game and then the LSU's, they were still mixed in Ole Miss and Texas A&M and Texas,
Yeah.
So it's like there's how do they fix those problems, and can they fix those problems going into the next week? So, I'm going to – you may not be watching the South Florida as much as I, but I'm definitely going to see if those mistakes are still being made.
Yeah. All right, how about two matchups here, Shane? I'm going to ask you a question when we get talking after both of them, but Kansas State against your Missouri Tigers.
Yeah.
So much on the line for Eli and company. I have called these fans, Shane, the most miserable 2-0 fans in the SEC. And I think it's accurate because a lot of people are out on drink. They're fired up. They ain't good enough, which they've been shaky, but 2-0 is 2-0. How big is this Kansas State game that we've seemingly been talking about for about 6 months?
Yeah.
Maybe they've been looking ahead.
Maybe it's even bigger than it was a couple of weeks ago. And we have Mizzou fans, they want to know if I'm still riding. Hell yeah, we're riding. Come on. You've not lost. And I don't care if you play this way every single week, as long as you come out with a victory. That's all that ultimately matters. Now, are we mad at how we got there? Sure. Yeah. Are we pissed off about some of the play calling and maybe the playmakers that are being selected here? Obviously that's going to keep coming. That's what we do. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of teams that aren't 2-0. You are. So I'm all in, and this is an opportunity to remind the country that you guys are a top 25 team. So, yeah.
How many quarterbacks we see in this one from Missouri?
I think it'd be crazy not to put Sam in there at some point. Maybe even give him a series, play the hot hand. Don't let. I can see it. Coach doesn't want to be the one that makes that choice. But if you do come in, let's say on the third series, and he's productive, then play it, man. Keep rolling it. And then all of a sudden, you're not the one that made the decision. Sam made the decision by coming out here and putting some drives together. So it's a little bit tougher in this one, being a top 20 matchup. You don't want to, you don't want to be the one that messes it up. I get that. But again, we're talking about the ceiling. Who's got the higher ceiling? I think Sam does. Nothing against Brady. I think he's a great guy. I'm not going to do the daughter joke again, but I think we've seen it. We've seen it. So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. That's exactly what happened last week. So let's not do it again this week.
Yeah. Does he completely lose the fan base, you think, if he loses this game?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They'll burn that fucking place down. Mike. You know what I'm saying? Excuse my language, Mom, but they should. You know what I'm saying? Because forget the numbers, forget all that stuff. You're still a better team than Kansas State. Go out there and do it.
Yeah. How about BYU, Arkansas? Tricky game. Rocket Sanders out.
Yeah.
Still with the knee. They've looked shaky too, but they've got all the potential in the world. They beat BYU good last year, but that was like a KJ Jefferson Superman show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They may need that again, but they shouldn't. They should beat them. It's night game. They rarely get night games in Razorback Stadium. We got to get the running game going. The defense is playing lights out. Thoughts on BYU at Arkansas?
I think that Arkansas is not getting the respect they deserve because of self-inflicted wounds. If they would clean some of these stupid mistakes up, everyone would be talking about Arkansas could win the West.
Yeah.
I truly think that would be the narrative at this point. So if they can get this running, it's the offensive line, going back to the big uglies up front. If they can go over here and manhandle BYU, and this defense continue to do what they've been doing and improving each week, not make KJ win this game. Let's let Rock. I don't know if Rocket's going to play. It doesn't matter who's back there. There should be a running back there with 100 yards rushing in this game, and that's what it's ultimately going to boil down to. If we don't have that dynamic, if we don't have that team chemistry, and you're putting it all on KJ, you're going to end up losing, and you could lose this week.
Yeah. Rocket's out, so he ain't going to be playing.
So he is out officially?
For sure. Yeah,
Okay.
He's not going to play in this one. But is it possible? And to your point, also some drops on third downs would have kept some drives alive. That would maybe change the Kent State game. But is it fair to say maybe we should not overreact to 2 weeks of two new coordinators? I mean, the defensive coordinator, Travis Williams, is doing a hell of a job.
Yep.
I'm not saying Dan Enos is doing a bad job, but maybe we got to give him a little bit more time before we judge him.
Nope.
No,
not at all. Pull the schedule up. You know,
Yeah.
You want to talk about a juggernaut that's coming up. The time's over. The runway. We are at the end. BYU is that last opportunity to figure shit out, and we've got to be hitting on all cylinders at the end of this one, or this dream of winning an SEC or West, or going to an SEC championship is just it's not real, It's a dream. That's all it is. So,
right.
Do you have the schedule?
Yes, sir. So after BYU, at LSU, A&M in Arlington, at Ole Miss, at Alabama.
So do you think this is the last week? And you can't even say that with BYU. BYU's a good team. It's not a Northwest Illinois, bullshit team. It's I don't even know if that's a program. I just made that one up. But you know what I'm saying? It's not an App State coming in here. This is a team that you should put away. So, and if they're struggling and fighting with them tooth and nail because, again, self-inflicted wounds, then there's no way Arkansas gets through that with 2 wins.
Right. And this is what I wanted to ask you, closing out on this one. Sam Pittman, Arkansas. Eli Drinkwitz, Missouri. Which coach has got more pressure on them this week? These are non-conference games.
Yeah.
But, hey, we like these guys. We don't want to see them not be the coach there. But I just feel like a lot of fans will be like, we're in year 4, whatever, and we can't beat these non-conference teams at home. How are we ever going to compete at a high level in the SEC? And I think those are fair questions.
Yeah, I doubt definitely creeps in if Sam loses, and it's already kind of rumbling out there. I love Sam. I think he's one of the greatest people to walk this face of the earth. I think he's a great person and a great coach. And that's why the kids like playing with him. But BYU is a team you should beat.
Yeah.
So losing to that one, that's when the doubters start creeping in. Drink loses this game. They want his job.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about more pressure, without a doubt, it's Eli. He's got to have it because of. It'd be one thing if you steamrolled the first 2 games and then we drop one to a top 15 team, sure. But struggling those first 2 weeks, because that's what they're judging you. If Brady comes out here and doesn't perform, they're not judging him. They're judging Drink for putting him in there. So all the pressure is on him right now.
Well, speaking of pressure, Shane, Texas A&M, real quick, they played Louis Monroe. We don't got to break that down, but it's pretty funny stuff you sent me on all these players slipping on the turf.
Oh, God.
And DJ Durkin being, man, what a quality coach he is. You know,
Jimbo, slipping seemed to be an issue Saturday. What do you think contributed to that?
I don't know, maybe we had the wrong cleats. I don't know. I mean, the middle of the field did slip, but they had the same guys we did. I know Connor did a couple times. Like, he was getting ready to throw, his feet went out from under him, and that happened. What will happen a lot of times when you play at teams that have different logos. In other words, I say multiple teams play at a sport. They change that logo out. Well, when they do that, they change that grass has to be interchanged. So that's usually done on a very quick. And then plus their stadium, those stadiums that have that half. Don't get the sunlight to dry out, and then you had the rain, and plus, and you'll wet that part to make that grass take, and it makes that slick, and then you'll paint on the emblem. And when you have to take stadiums, and in my history of it, they always do that. You'll have a lot of some of those issues occasionally in that situation, and that seemed to what happened.
And what would be your evaluation of the job that Durkin is doing?
Did a good job right now. We played the run extremely well. Played a great first game. We gave up a couple deep ball passes, and we got to get a little more pressure. But DJ's a very good coach. He does a good job. And knows what he's doing.
And the clapping and all the excuses. Say less, you know?
Yeah.
Say less.
So, what'd you think about this, Shane? All these slipping. Was Miami not playing on the same field? I'm confused.
And this right here, I can't stand. You know, Shane did this the other day with the hot dogs and the chain gang. You know, it's like, we're the ones, the fans, the media, we're the ones that are going to come up with excuses, not the head ball coach.
Right.
Own it. You lost it. You got beat. Fix what the problem is. And is it DJ? I don't know. That's what I'm kind of leaning more toward, but whatever. I think, and at the end of the day, you know, you're looking at the mirror, the pressure is on Jimbo, but that seat just got really hot real quick.
Yeah. How about Georgia Tech at Ole Miss, Shane? We got to get the ground game going, got to get Judkins going before we get into Alabama. Otherwise, they're going to eat us up alive. Jackson Dart, living up to the hype.
Yes.
I'm so happy I jumped on the train early. He is slicing and dicing, and it's so funny that they waited so damn long to name him a starting quarterback. He's only been one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. But any other thoughts? Georgia Tech, tricky little team here, but, I mean, Ole Miss blew their doors off last season. They should do it again.
Well, and again, a little bit of sometimes we see that with Ole Miss, especially a little bit of a letdown after a tough win.
Yeah.
You know, so let's don't see that. This is a new program. This is a top 25 team, top 10 team at the end of the day if they play their cards right. So keep grinding on them, but the defense too. I think they made a lot of mistakes last week, and do they clean that up? Surely they do against Georgia Tech, but this ain't your Papaw's Georgia Tech. They're not going to run all the time. It's going to have a little bit more of a balanced attack, but I think it's a good game to clean up before you get into tough SEC play.
Shane, I don't think my heart can take another loss to the ACC. Come on, Ole Miss, don't let me down.
Don't. Yeah, they're already hanging banners. You know, like UCF, the Marines. You know, they're going undefeated against SEC teams. So let's don't do that.
All right, Akron at Kentucky, Shane. We got to get Devin Leary going. He started to heat up last week, but with Liam Cohen now, his situation, it's kind of weird to even talk about it. The pressure that's on Ole Miss, but or Kentucky's offense to kind of get the ball rolling. But thankfully for them, you were talking about Arkansas' schedule. They get about 5-6 weeks to figure this stuff out before they have to go to Georgia. Yeah. But Kentucky, if we're in a 4-quarter game against Joe Moorhead's Akron, I'm gonna be very, very concerned.
Yeah. This one here is like. What is it? Fool me once, shame on me. It's like, you know, I'm not going to butcher
Fool
it
me
like
twice, shame on
Bush
you.
did, but yeah, I think that's where we're at with Kentucky. Is like, okay, all right, well, we messed up, we made some mistakes. let's just get back. This is a team you put away by half, and then you can start getting some of these starters off the field because, they are riddled with injuries, and a lot of that is these kids fighting for their life for 4 quarters when they didn't need to be.
Yeah. Samford had Auburn. Again, that'll be a laugher.
3-0, man. Could you imagine you going 3-0?
3-0 heading into A&M.
Yeah.
After that tough, hard-fought West Coast game, this is a perfect where it's located because if it was a Texas A&M this week, I think we'd be in real trouble.
Yeah.
But, we want to see this offense has got to improve.
Oh, yeah.
And against this opponent, kind of like you were asking me about LSU, almost like they won last week, but they still need to get right.
Right.
Because they damn near lost to Cal with a pathetic showing on offense is what it really was. This is an opportunity to build some momentum because A&M, based on what we've seen on their defense, you can hit them. So I think it's a real opportunity for the Hugh Freeze train to keep on rolling.
Absolutely. This needs to be a lot like the Florida game. Come out first quarter, let's work on running. Second quarter, let's work on passing. Third quarter,
It's like a
let's start
scrimmage.
getting some. That's exactly what it is. Let's get some red zone work here. Let's let them have a couple of long ones so we can work on the inside the 20. That's what this needs to be here. You're just getting it right, cleaning up. But this offense was terrible last week, and they need a big bounce back.
All right, last one, Shane. Vandy at UNLV. It's weird to see SEC. We're on the West Coast. I know Las Vegas, not quite West Coast, but so many travels out there. Must win for Vanderbilt. We got to get A.J. Swan going. We've been very disappointed with the turnovers with A.J. Swan. Mm-hmm. If they're going to pull upsets in the SEC, these receivers, this quarterback, they've got to get hot. It's got to start now.
Yeah. It's like my belt, it's just barely hanging on, and if these guys are going to make a bowl game, they got to win. They got to win this one, and now you're going to have to pull off some miracles in the SEC. So that's where we're at with Vandy. They're gonna need a big bounce back, and they cannot afford to lose any more. Or I think they lose the momentum of a rebuilding program that Clark Lee established last season.
Emphasis on building.
Too soon?
All right, buddy. So we hit on all the teams and anything else before we hop off the line?
No, don't forget that hotline number. And Florida, Georgia. That's coming up. Florida, Tennessee, Georgia,
South Carolina.
You got LSU. I mean, we've got some damn football games this week, brother.
Yeah.
There's some cupcakes sprinkled in there, but there are a lot of great matchups, and I can't wait to see it because this is when the East and the West start dividing. This is when we truly start to figure out who's going to be going that way and who's going to have to try again next year.
Yep. Well, I appreciate you, buddy. As always, I appreciate all y'all for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
See you guys. Go Vols.